Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you're joining from. Welcome to the 55th Global Live Speakers Summit presented by Global Speakers Talk. I'm Navi Garcia, a certified voice artist, broadcasting live from the Philippines. And yes, I am from the future because it is currently 10:01 p.m. here. But yeah, I'm from the other side of the world, which is why we're truly global today. And we're streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So feel free to please share the live stream and maybe tag a friend who needs a word of hope. To those who are new to us, Global Speakers Talk, or GST, is an international community dedicated to lifting voices and lives through expert ideas, teachings, stories, and even messages. It's a caring startup for your unique voice. And our simple mission here holds something bold for us to shine unheard voices into the world, to grow individuals through our events, and also help inspiring messages reach further and higher. With gratitude, I would like to take this moment to honor our founder, Anshu Tiwari, whose vision built this global stage, and our CEO, Andrea Claudia, who stewards the mission with heart and excellence. Our thanks also to the whole GST team and volunteers behind the scenes for making this worldwide summit feel more intimate. Again, today we offer yet another special gathering. It's really perfect to close out the month of August with our theme, After the Fire, Stories of Trauma, Resilience, and Renewal, which sits under the pillar, Healing the World Within. Now, today isn't just any other conversation because it's a movement toward healing, strength, and renewed purpose. Think of it as an invitation to heal the world within so that we can all serve the world around us. And by the time we sign off, our hope is simple that you feel inspired, equipped, and ready to rise after the fire. I'm really grateful and honored to host today's summit because I truly believe in the vision of GST. I've also had the privilege of speaking on the 24th Global Live Speakers Summit back in 2023 on building and maintaining self discipline. So I know firsthand the power of this community to turn insight into action. But before we bring our speakers on, I want to share something that might resonate with you, something that you might see yourself in one way or another. Because we all know that, there's a day when life splits in two, the before and the after. It could be a breakup, a medical diagnosis, a job loss, a sudden goodbye, or something as bad as physical abuse. And when you meet that day, the days after that, everything feels a lot smaller. The noise gets louder, and you feel like you're running out of choices. Even breathing feels like a lot of work. And this was the struggle a very close friend of mine experienced not so long ago. He was emotionally abused, manipulated, betrayed, and he was even led to believe that he was a complete failure. So he tried something, and he calls this the 3 by 3. So first, 3 slow breaths. Inhale, exhale, in, out, and again one more. It's not perfect, but it's slower than the chaos happening around him in his head. And secondly, he learned to affirm 3 simple truths. He said to himself, "I'm here." And then he said, "Right now, I'm safe enough to take one small step." Number 3, he said, "I deserve love and care." So those 3 affirmations he practiced daily. And third, he also pushed himself to do 3 more small, brave acts. He texted a friend, "Can we talk?" And he was listened to. He stepped outside for 5 minutes of sun, which it really had an impact to his mood and emotions because physically there is an effect. And then he ate something that actually nourished the body. Fresh veggies, fruits, lots and lots of water, and no alcohol. None of these erased the pain, but it did make a tiny bridge from "I can't do this" to maybe I can. And on that bridge, he learned to ask, what can I let go of? And bit by bit, his ground got steadier. Not because he was born strong, but because he practiced small strength every day. And there was also a quote he shared that helped him keep going. This was from Dr. Maya Angelou that goes, you may not control all the events that happen to you, but you can decide not to be reduced by them. Not reduced, you're refined. You're not silenced, you're shaped. So, my friend's wound didn't become his identity, it became his wisdom. And when he shared that wisdom, he found other people building their own bridges, one small bridge at a time. Then again, bit by bit, my friend was able to break barriers, turning his trauma into triumph. And that friend was me. So if you're watching this and you're still in the smoke and you feel like you're making no progress, you're not late and you're not alone. Your bridge might look like it's narrow, but it's real. And you can cross that bridge no matter how narrow it may seem. The bridge may be narrow, but it's there. And today you'll hear 5 ways to find that bridge, with 5 voices reminding you that the future is still listening. Joining us today are 5 empowered women with practical ways to take that next small step toward resilience, renewal, and the life waiting on the other side of the bridge. So, to set the stage for breaking barriers, please meet today's featured voices, each carrying hard won wisdom and a message that moves. We'll be having Brooke Deanne, who is a trauma healing mentor and RTT therapist, helping survivors rewrite their stories and reclaim their power. Joining us from Phoenix, Arizona, once again, let's have Brooke Deanne.
Hello. Hello. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and be in this space and being able to tell my story from trauma to triumph. I mean, who would have known that I would have ever been able to speak? If you would have told me this 5, 6, 7 years ago, I would have been like, I would have laughed at you because this was something that was a very big part of my life. And it started 8 years ago. 8 years ago, I realized that I was in an abusive relationship. 8 years ago, I realized that I was in a cult. And I didn't know. I was born into it, I was raised in it, and I hadn't experienced anything different. So I had to really find myself after leaving both of these systems, the cult like system that I had grown up in, that all I known. I left my family behind because my family had to leave me behind because this cult was a cult where they say that you cannot still love your family after they leave. They leave you with this sense of feeling like you don't belong. You cannot grow with it. You can't allow yourself to let me take a step back. When I grew up, I had a father that was a narcissistic father, and we had to be perfect. We had to perform. We had to act like we were the perfect spiritual family. And so, growing in that experience, I had to be the person that he wanted me to be. And if I wasn't, and if I rebelled against that, there was a lot of punishment. There was a lot of anger. There was this sense that I couldn't actually explore who I was. And if I asked questions, I also couldn't I would get answers, but I also wasn't able to test those things because I was also said, no, you can't do that. You can't go down that path. You have to be this way. And so I never really found my sense of self or my identity within that family system or within actually that cult like system. I was just told who I had to be because we were told how we were supposed to dress, how who we were supposed to associate with, even, and that we couldn't look outside of anything within that cult system. We had to read their literature. We had to just associate with those within the cult. And so that was a sense of believing that everybody on the outside we had to fear and that there was something wrong with everybody on the outside. Actually, we were told that everybody on the outside was evil and were going to be destroyed. And so this was something that was, for me as a young child, I really took this to be like, I really took it to heart. I mean, I really believed everything that my parents were telling me. I believed everything that I had to go to these church meetings 3 times a week. I mean, they were instilling us with all of this information. So it was basically programming my brain and conditioning me to perform as they wanted me to. It was a lot of control and fear tactics. And the fear was very real. And so within that family dynamic and that religious system, my father also instilled that fear in me if I didn't obey, that his love would be taken away. And so it's no surprise that, 15, 16 years later, when I'm 16 years old and I'm a teenage girl and I'm trying to find myself, my father continued to suppress that version of me and not allow me to find the freedom. And so I ended up finding basically a carbon copy of who my father was in a relationship. And I married that boy and I stayed with him for 17 years because I didn't know anything different. And even though I had just seen kind of the way that my parents had evolved and how the relationship had been toxic, my mother was very suppressed. She didn't have the opportunity to have a voice. And so that was my experience in my own relationship, not being able to have a voice, having that emotional, physical, mental abuse and not knowing anything different. So I just allowed myself to continue to stay in that suffering, not knowing that there was something else on the other side. But when I broke free 8 years ago, I realized that yes, I had survived what I had survived. There was a lot of trauma to clean up. There was a lot of pain. There was a lot of suffering. There was a lot of sadness. But I was able to start unraveling the pieces of what had happened to me. And while I stayed in victimhood for a very long time, I realized that I didn't need to stay in the victimhood, but it did serve its purpose. I had to feel what I had to feel about all the things I had experienced. At first I felt like I had been betrayed by God after leaving, because if this was not true, then what was true? I had no religious system or structure to hold on to anymore. So it felt a little scary stepping into something else in the unknown and not knowing what comes next. And then also losing that community, losing my family, and then really feeling very alone in the world, feeling like, well, I have not much to hold on to. So feeling that isolation. And I just realized that either I could make this something where it takes me out, but I also knew that I needed to get up. I needed to get up. I had 2 sons at the time. These sons needed me. Like they needed me to show up, and I tried my best. And I think that what I did was right. I took them out of that religious system. I showed them that there's a new way to life. There's something more, that they don't have to be controlled. So now we have this freedom on the other side. And for myself, I had to also unravel what that narcissistic abuse had done to me and to my body. And it had really, just regulated my nervous system. It had really made me honestly physically sick a little bit. I was very depressed. I was extremely, extremely anxious. I felt like my body was constantly in the state of fight or flight. So it was like I wasn't busy or on the go. I wasn't able to really relax, or it felt just like uncomfortable. I had to keep going. And seeing myself then and the person I am now is realizing that I just did that out of survival. I thought I had to do that because the narcissistic abuse rewires your nervous system. The experience of being in a fear-based, high control religion rewires your nervous system because you are in the state of fear. You don't know what comes next. You don't know what's going to happen next. And you don't know when the next blow up's going to happen. You don't know when the next time you're going to upset that person and you're not going to be safe again. So it's unraveling the things that happened to me, but also seeing that on the other side of this has been amazing because I have been able to not only help other women, but help also my children. And I think this is part of the piece that I love about healing trauma is that we get to pass this down. This is a generational thing. You know, we have generational trauma. You know, our parents before us, they didn't know better and their parents didn't know better. But as we kind of evolve and we're learning, okay, these are the things that don't work anymore. These are the things that are harmful and hurting other people. We're not even realizing it. So a lot of the times we're unconscious of this. And I look back at my father and I had so much anger and so much stuff I had to sift through because of the way I was treated by him. But I also look at it as he also had his own trauma. He also had his own things that happened to him when he was a child, that why he is operating in this way. And hurt people hurt people. And I think that now I'm able to pass that on to my children to show them a different way that, you know, we can learn emotional intelligence. You know, that was something I was never taught as a child. You know, all I saw was my father was either angry, upset, or frustrated, or irritated, or he was like so sweet. So the experience as a child was volatile. It was like I never knew what was going to happen. And that experience in itself, I think, makes a child just feel like, okay, I don't know what safety is. And I realized that I had never felt really safe in my body. And now seeing that experience and seeing, oh, okay, how can I show up for my children where I'm creating a emotionally safe environment. I'm creating a space where, you know, even though things happen and we get upset or we get angry or whatever those things are, how can we do it in a more healthy manner? Because we're teaching the next generation to choose differently, to learn how to self-regulate. And that's just the experience that I've been learning, right? How do I take a moment to be really present and, okay, what's going on here? You know, I'm a little bit flustered. Something happened and now I have to deal with this, or my son is kind of having a tantrum. What do I need to do about this tantrum? Do I need to actually react and get into the emotion with him? Or can I just be really present and be a safe space for him so that he can do what he needs to do, but he can come back to me when he's ready? And learning even these things has been such a journey for myself to be able to show up as this parent. And it's been a gift, you know, because I wish I would have had that when I was a little girl. I wish I would have had those experiences, but it's about being able to, now I get to do it different. And so I don't look at the past as something I need to regret, but that every day I get up and I get to do things different and I get to show people a different way. I now help women heal from abuse, childhood trauma, and I help them to really find their sense of self again, because these things that happen to us, they strip away our sense of identity. In fact, we may have never even been allowed to find our own identity, because a lot of the times when we've grown up in chaotic environments, if we've had an abusive family dynamic, if there's been addiction in the family, we've just been surviving, and we've just been in this dynamic where we've had to find out what's going on in the emotional environment within the home. And if it's chaotic, if it's not safe, if that parent is, you know, emotional one moment and then the next moment they're in a different emotion, like you didn't have that experience of what like a regulated parent looks like. And so I want to help women to find the ability to know, okay, we can heal these younger parts of you. And that means that we can give those younger parts of you what they never had. And that is a sense of safety. That is the sense of that they're enough and that everything that happened to them didn't mean anything about them. It's just that these were the experiences that you had. And to really break free from the past and be able to live a more authentic life, to be able to move forward and grow and evolve and also dream again. I think that was the biggest piece for me, is that I just was doing the motions. I was doing the day to day. I was going to work. I was doing what I needed to do. And I wasn't really living. I wasn't really able to find joy and like real joy, real happiness, and real ability to um, live a full life. And the moment that I, did the more healing work and I was able to now, as I was healing, I was also helping other women. It was the fact that I was able to now create a sense of safety for myself so much that I could now design my life the way that I wanted to, because I felt a sense of security in who I was after discovering and realizing what I wanted in life and getting really clear on that. What is my purpose? What lights me up, and a lot of the times we don't even think about those things, about what are we really doing in life, and does it actually come from the heart space? Is it actually lighting you up? And I was so thankful that I was able to finally find that thing that could light me up, and that is helping other women heal from this type of abuse and show them their most authentic self. Like, unravel all the layers of the trauma, the belief systems, the negative belief systems of I'm not enough, I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving. That kind of gets us trapped in these addictive cycles of these abusive relationships. And then to show them that you actually can rewire your brain, like you can actually create a new way of thinking, a new identity, even. Like you can basically burn everything to the ground and build yourself up. You can, and I think that that in itself is just seeing that you can build a new foundation, you can build a new beautiful emotional home for yourself, and you can blossom in this way. And I have done that by so much healing work, but also by learning so much about how my mind works. And that is what I love. I'm very passionate about teaching the women that I work with and the men that I work with how their brain operates and how to really help them use it to their advantage, because we so often use it in a way that it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall, right? We're just hoping that something sticks, but at the same time, what are we actually thinking on our day-to-day thoughts? And if we've survived trauma, if we've been in abusive relationships, we often are having this really large inner critic or inner punisher that has this voice that is not our voice. It's not our truth. And when we learn this about our brain and how it's kind of just repeating maybe what the abuser said or what your parents said in the past, or, whatever those experiences that you had, it's just like an old record playing. And we get to change the record. We get to create a new song. We get to create a new ability to just allow ourselves to find something different than what we've always known. And this is like getting rid of where we've been comfortable, because our brains are, and our bodies are, they're meant to keep us comfortable. And we often can even stay comfortable in places, and this is my story, that we don't belong, right? We can stay in abusive relationships, or we can stay in honestly just loveless places, or have people in our life, even though they're not giving anything back, because it's comfortable. It's uncomfortable to leave. It's uncomfortable to choose another way, because our brain and our body say, well, wait a second, this is what you've been doing for so long. And it actually believes it's been doing something good, but really it's up to us to see, okay, this actually doesn't feel good to me. This actually doesn't feel right to me. And it's up to us to make that next jump, that next leap, to say, oh, there's something more, and I'm going to just jump into the unknown, and I'm going to discover this. I'm going to allow myself and give myself the permission to move forward, to find something. And knowing that, when you set yourself up really beautifully, like whether that's in community, which I always tell everybody, especially if you've been a trauma survivor, it is our, I guess it is a trauma response to want to isolate, right? To believe that you are strong enough, that you can handle it, because maybe as a young child, that's what you did, right? That's all you could do, because maybe there was nobody that was safe around and you had to figure it out on your own and you didn't have any support. And so now as an adult, you've grown into this adult that believes the same, that thinks that they can just do it all on their own and they don't need anybody else. But it's about allowing yourself to realize this is the most important piece, is finding community, finding the support to allow you to thrive, because we thrive in connection, we thrive in the ability to connect with other people that we can relate with, even if it's just a safe person that we can chat with. This is so important, and I feel like I must be my time must be up because I you're throwing this up there. So I can close out. Thank you, everybody, for listening in.
Thank you so much, Brooke. It's a great reminder for us that identity can definitely be rebuilt stronger and truer than before. And before I let you go, I just want to thank you for helping survivors rewrite their stories and reclaim their lives. So, to those who are watching, you might want to try to get a copy of one of her best selling books, Shattered, Broken, and Beautiful: Losing My Religion. It's all about a raw and flinching memoir of breaking free, finding faith, and reclaiming power. Again, thank you, Brooke Deanne. Keeping that momentum, our global viewers, our next speaker shows how purpose turns pain into legacy. She is a U.S. Air Force veteran, a transformational empowerment strategist, and also the founder of Lady J Global Enterprises. She equips audiences to heal, break barriers, and live with purpose through dynamic speaking, coaching, and also the Cortina method. Please welcome Jody Watkins joining us from Jacksonville, Florida. Jody, welcome to the virtual stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, first of all. Brooke, thank you for sharing your story. I can relate to so much of what you were talking about, and I love that you're helping people. I always say we can do more when we bring our voices together, and so that's what we're doing today. First off, my name is Jody Marie. I go by Jody Marie. My brand is Lady J Empowers. A little bit about me: I grew up in a small town north of Jacksonville, Florida, and I didn't know that my trauma started at the age of 3 until about 40 years later, but that's what happened. So at 3 years old, my dad left and he never came back. So I never knew who my dad was. My mom did her best. I remember she cleaned houses, and so that's probably why I don't like cleaning as much anymore. But anyway, I just remember it was humble beginnings. I remember being on her bicycle and we didn't have a car. We didn't have a lot of money. I remember carrying clothes on the bike to go wash and dry clothes at the local laundromat. And these are just memories. I don't remember the years that tied into every little thing, but they're just memories that I do have as a young child. At the age of 6, my mom had found another man that she fell in love with, and they got married. What I didn't know is that would be the beginning of something I had never seen before, which was domestic violence. He was a narcissistic, come to find out later, schizophrenic, and that's what I lived with the rest of my life until I moved out. She endured it. She accepted it. So a lot of what Brooke was saying, now that I know what I know, there was generational trauma involved. And I think she just liked to be loved. She thought that was what love was. So I'm not sure what led to that, but that's kind of what it looked like. She was an alcoholic. I just remember her drinking a lot. We never had like real good conversations. There wasn't a lot of showing up for me that I remember. At the age of 7, I remember she came into my room crying and bleeding, and that was the day that I lost what would have been my sister. A lot of things happened after that. I won't go into every little detail, but what I will say is our trauma can become our superpower if we choose to allow it. As I went into the military, I took all my trauma with me. And one thing that I get to mentor other young people going into the military on is I say, do what you can to face your trauma before you go in. Because what I didn't know as I was running away, that's exactly what I was doing at that time, trying to find safety, like Brooke mentioned. I was running away, but I was taking my baggage with me. I was taking all that trauma with me. I was taking the anger with me. I was taking all of it with me. And it just accumulated into the military where I allowed people to take advantage of me. Um, there was some military sexual trauma involved, but I kept going and I kept putting on the face and I kept coping because that's what I was taught. That was what was ingrained in me at an early age. As Brooke mentioned, you couldn't have told me a long time ago that I would be doing what I'm doing today. About 15 years ago, I got certified as a personal trainer and nutritionist, but that was because I'd had 5 surgeries, and the nutrition part was because when my mom was on medications, some of those medications were making her suicidal, and I did not understand it, did not make sense to me. So I took nutrition and pharmacology back in about 2007, 2008 in order to help get her off some of those medications that were not working well for her. Now, like I said, my mom loved to feel loved, right? And I have seen now in my life how that has played out as well, where I've sought external validation the majority of my life. So I look back now and I understand more of where she was. I did not like it, but I understand it. I also see how some of that played a part in my life as I continued to get older and not know that these things were subconsciously ingrained in my DNA. In 2007, my mom called me. I was stationed in Mildenhall in England at RAF Mildenhall. I was an instructor out there. And it was on her birthday. And she informed me that she had contracted HIV at that time. The person who gave it to her was someone who she had been dating, because by this time, the other man that she had married had passed away due to a drug overdose. But this person, he was younger. He was someone she accepted into her life. She thought she could help him because he was also an alcoholic, and by that time, she had been recovering. But one thing that I know full force is you cannot help people that don't want to be helped. No one could have helped me until I was ready to raise my hand and say, I'm ready to be helped. And no one can help anyone else until they get to that point as well. What I tell people now is I hope you don't wait as long as I did. Because by the time I got into therapy and went through a therapy modality called EMDR, I had 40 years of compound trauma between my upbringing, between before I went into the military, some things had happened, while I was in the military for 15 years, and then even after I was out of the military. All of these things were playing in my life as programming over and over and over. So what I tell people now, we talk about brain and neuroscience because I dove into that a lot more later on as I was going through my journey. Our brains are like our CPU. They are our central operating system for everything else. I started studying this as well because I have a lot of chronic pain in my body. And I started noticing how trauma and stress can heighten the pain in our body. So when I have people that have, you know, arthritis everywhere, myofibromalgia. Sorry about that. Microfibromyalgia. There's other things that we endure that are really operating from our brain. So I learned later on through the trauma therapies that I was in. I went through EMDR, went through that for 9 months. And then I went through another one called neuro emotional technique, which uses your body to tell the story. I went through that for a few months as well. But it wasn't until I came in contact with the founder of the Cortina method that I really understood we don't have to relive our trauma in order to retrain our brains. We just have to be able to tap into the subconscious, which is what that method tends to do. So, in 1 to 2 sessions, we can actually unlock the 40 years of trauma that took me 9 months and then another 4 months through EMDR and NET. That was a game changer for me because I know the pain that I endured going through all those things. And I don't want other people to have to go through that. It can be very tough. At the end of EMDR, I was ready to check out. It was too much. I remember having sessions and coming out of those sessions, just sitting in my car for an hour after the session, like, "Huh, what just happened?" So I'm grateful that I've been able to help people who are actually going through EMDR on the backside of that when they need to talk through things because I did not have that. Now, I had a great therapist, but I didn't know how to communicate the things that were coming out. I didn't know how to communicate to my husband and my daughter why mom was acting the way she was acting. So these are some of the things that I endured through that time. I started building my first business back in 2017. We were stationed in Okinawa, Japan at the time, and it was great. But what I tell people now is when I was in my best physical shape, I was mentally falling apart because what I ended up doing unknowingly was I was using the gym as a coping mechanism. I stayed busy. So the busyness that we endure, a lot of that is because we are not willing to face the things that we need to face. I'll tell you right now, this journey is not easy, but coming out on the other side of it, and I still have a long way to go, you guys. I'm still doing the work. It has been completely worth it. I got baptized in 2019. That's actually the same year I started writing my first book. I didn't know at that time that getting closer to God was going to be very difficult. It was going to make my life difficult. But what I know now is it was necessary. When we left Okinawa, Japan, I didn't know why I was coming back to Jacksonville, Florida, but now I know that I had to come back here in order to heal. Because had I gone somewhere else, I most likely wouldn't have faced all the things that I needed to face. What I tell people now is when you have that pull, just be willing to step into it. It's not easy, but that's why, as Brooke said, we need community. I am the first one to isolate myself. And that's why I always tell people check in on your strong people because we are the ones who won't tell the world what's going on. But I'm learning now that the more I share, the more I've been able to help others. So I continue to do that. And the more I speak, the more I heal. Sharing our stories is super important. And everyone has one. We see what we see, but we don't see what led that person to where they are. I get this a lot when I speak to homeless people. I ask them what their story is because I know they have one, but we all do. As business owners, we tend to have other people just kind of look at us and just say, oh, you're just a personal trainer, or you're just this, or you're just a life coach, you're just this, right? But no, we're not. Because for most of us, There's a reason we came to this juncture in life. So today I want to share with you something that I do a lot, and that is when I'm dealing with stress or anxiety, I give myself, like Brooke said, permission to take a step back, take a deep breath, and allow myself to feel whatever I need to feel in that moment. Now, that was not something that I was able to do in my childhood, and it was not something I was able to do in the military because I was in a male dominated career field. I worked on the flight line on C 130 aircraft for the majority of my career. And then when I went medical, I had to be a leader and I had to still act like nothing was wrong. It was a mask that I wore my entire life. So now I take a step back and I allow myself to feel those things because also, as Brooke mentioned, I have not felt safe in my life the majority of my life because I didn't have anyone who ever made me feel safe. But I also didn't allow people to make me feel safe because I always felt like they were going to let me down anyway. So it's these self awareness things that we have to be aware of. So as we go through this journey, it's important to get more self aware because we can't change anything if we don't know it exists. I was a lab tech for a while, I was a medical lab tech. And I used to tell people, and even when I'm doing my health coaching and nutrition coaching, I always ask the women, especially if they're over 35, when the last time they got their labs was. Because even with that, it's important to know what's there. Are our hormones working correctly? So mental health is no different. We have to have the self awareness. It can be scary. I get it. But we must do the work because I have a daughter as well. And I do not ever want her to carry on the trauma that she didn't enter this world asking for. I have three questions that I ask myself when I'm kind of getting into a time of what the heck is going on in my life or when I'm allowing certain things. Because I tell people also, I'm a recovering people pleaser and a recovering control freak. So if I can do it, anybody can, right? I ask myself, what am I allowing? Why am I allowing it? But the third question is the important one because this is the action step. What am I going to do about it? The reason I say that's most important is because we can listen to all the podcasts, read all the books. I mean, people that read my book, I love that they read it, but I'm like, are you going to utilize the tools? Because if you don't, it's just a book that you've read. So it's the action part that matters. Knowing I had all this trauma or knowing I had some trauma is one thing. But had I not gone the extra mile and gone through the therapies that I went through, I would not be the person I am today. And even now, I'm getting my PhD in psychology and counseling in order to become an even better coach, a better listener, a better communicator, emotional control, things like that, right? I have a framework that I want to share with you, and it's something that I've been sharing for a while. I love acronyms because they help me remember. So the framework is STEP, STEP, because I say we can't be mentally stuck if we're moving forward. The other acronym is SHINE, because once we've gotten through our trauma and we're learning how to heal, we become a bright light in the world if we allow it. STEP is seek help. It's okay. It's okay to ask for help. We're not always taught that because a lot of us have been taught not to ask for help. So that can be a difficult step, but it is the first step. And if you are willing to do that, I want to acknowledge you today because those of us who have are showing you what can happen later. T is trust the process. It's easy to doubt, but trust the process. Evaluate the impact of every traumatic experience you can remember. The biggest one is the P, and that's progressing forward. We can stay stuck or we can move forward. We can live in the rearview mirror, which is smaller, but we'll get in a car accident if we do that. Or we can look out the front windshield. Sign is set boundaries. That was the biggest thing in my life that I had to do, was start setting healthy boundaries. And it didn't look like everybody wanted it to look. I had to pull away from people that I never planned on pulling away from. But that's what I had to do in order to do the next one, which was heal from within. Every healing process starts here. Here. We have to be willing to heal from within. The I is identify the source. When you're feeling certain things, what is making you feel that way? When I feel abandoned by people, what makes me feel that way? Now I know it stems from the 3-year-old me, but that's not now. I don't have to feel that anymore. The N is nullify the enemy within. As a faith-based practitioner, I always say, I know this full force. The enemy does not want any of us to step into what God has for us. So the enemy is going to do everything. It's the lies within. We're not worthy. We're not deserving. We have done this and that and the other. But that's okay because we've already been forgiven. So it's time to nullify the enemy. And then, and only then, once we've done all those things, we can enter into a new journey, which is where I'm at now and what I'm so grateful to have accomplished along the way. Now, I will say wholeheartedly, I am not there yet. And I don't know, I might not get all the way there. But what I will say is every single day that I'm allowed to wake up in the morning and be grateful for another day, I know that there's a purpose on my life. And I will keep going. Because while I don't know the entire plan, I know there is one. And I will keep going forward for that. So that's the framework that I want to leave with you. You guys, look, this journey is not going to be all nice and frilly, but it will be worth it. I appreciate our host for today for allowing me to come on here and be part of this mission and this event. I look forward to connecting with each one of you even more, especially our other speakers. I would love for you to go visit my link tree. I have different links there. It's Lady J Empowers. Everything that I do is Lady J Empowers. I have a community inside of a platform known as Convene Communities, where we connect and collaborate. We refer each other. So I love working with other coaches. And I also have a 2-for-1 special going on the first version of my book, Reclaim Your Life. So I ask you to come to my website, which is scrolling across the screen, go to the store, and if you purchase one, I send you 2. I appreciate all of you. God bless you in this journey. And just remember, if you're moving forward, putting one foot and sometimes one toe in front of the other, you can't be stuck. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lady J Empowers, Jody Marie. Thank you for showing us that persistent, disciplined healing. It really does create hope for every one of us. You know, I love what you said, that our trauma can be our superpower if we just allow it. And, you know, it just needs one step. S for seek help, T for trust the process, E is for evaluating the impact of these experiences, and P, progress forward. Don't be stuck. So again, such a powerful story you shared with us, Jody. We appreciate you. And now, global viewers, from mindset to metabolism, our next expert bridges health, science, and compassion. She's a respected holistic practitioner with nearly 4 decades in healthcare, and she's also the CEO of Pounds to Go and Chronicles of Courage, helping people achieve optimal health with expertise in leaky gut, thyroid health, and weight management. Please welcome Andra Annette joining us from the Bronx, New York. Andra, we're honored to have you.
Hi, everyone. So I am Andra Annette, and I am so honored to be here today. And I'm so grateful to all the people who went before me. I would be lying if I said that this doesn't make me nervous or uncomfortable. This is the first time I am sharing this story live. So if I falter, I have created some notes for myself so I can stay on track. Okay, so let's get started. The first time I died, it was not in a hospital bed. It was on my mother's doorstep after being raped and left for dead. The second time was when I was told by doctors I would never walk again after a drunk driver crushed my body. The third time, that was different. I was still alive, but I was walking around carrying over 300 pounds of unprocessed trauma, inflammation, and pain. And that death was almost permanent. I've survived cancer twice. I endured an abusive marriage, and I buried most of my family. And for many years, I walked around in a body that did not feel like my own. Not because I let myself go, but because decades of trauma went ignored, misdiagnosed, and misunderstood. I didn't fit into the textbooks, so I didn't get the help that I needed. And here's what I want to say to you from one survivor to another. Trauma is an assault on the body. It changes your chemistry. It changes your energy. It damages your digestion. And it shapes how we move through the world until our body can no longer carry it. And for many of us, especially women with complex trauma, we carry that pain quietly, invisibly, until we break. I spent years of my life learning how to fight, but what really changed my life was learning how to forgive. Forgiveness was not about excusing what had happened to me, but it about reclaiming what I had left and building from there. I had to start asking myself, what am I carrying that doesn't belong to me? Because trauma convinces you that it's your fault, that you're weak. You should have done something different. You should have seen it coming. You should have fought harder. And the longer you believe that, the longer you stay stuck in survival mode. And survival mode is a prison for your body. So here are 4 things that I do with clients, friends, or anyone looking to heal from the inside out. And these 4 things changed my life. Number 1, reflective journaling. I used to call it trauma tracking. Every day, I wrote down the best and the worst part of my day. I celebrated the good, and I looked at the bad without shame. And I asked what my part was in it, and what could I do to change. It's not about blame. It's about accepting responsibility, the kind that helps you heal. Number 2 is self-talk. Every day, I allowed myself to not allow the voice in my head to treat me like I was worthless. If I wouldn't say it to a best friend, then it didn't belong in my head. Over time, your worthless became you're still here and you're stronger today than yesterday. Number 3 is stop asking permission. Be the first pick in your own life. I stopped waiting for others to approve, rescue, or validate me, and I moved forward anyway. And number 4 is there is no one size fits all. In my 40 years of practice, I have never seen 2 people with the same diagnosis require the same healing plan. Real healing only happens when the plan is tailored to your body, your needs, and your story. So here's what I want you to hear today. Stop carrying what's not yours. Put it down. Forgive yourself. You can't move forward carrying a backpack full of bricks that somebody else handed to you. Forgive yourself for what you didn't know. Forgive yourself for how you coped. Forgive yourself for surviving. And then take one small step, just one, towards reclaiming your story. Maybe tonight that's journaling. Maybe tomorrow that's monitoring your self-talk. Maybe it's saying no to someone who's draining you. Or maybe it's saying yes to yourself for the first time in years. You don't have to do this perfectly, and you don't have to do it alone. You just have to start. And here's what happens when you do. Your energy returns, your digestion improves, your body stops fighting you, and it starts working with you again. This is not theory, this is biology, and I'm living proof. So I'm Andra Annette, and you are not what happened to you. You are what you choose to become next. So I help people reclaim their lives by allowing and making them feel seen, heard, and understood, and tailoring a plan to their unique body, their needs, and their stories. And if I can do it after everything, you can too. It's not an easy path. I don't want to lie to you and tell you that it was an easy path. It's a process. It's a daily process. Like coming on today and sharing that with others was not something I wanted to do. I wanted to bolt. I wanted to run. I didn't want to share that with you. But if my story can help just one person, then it's worth feeling uncomfortable. Today, my life is very different. I am happy, healthy, healed, and whole, as I always say. That's not necessarily true. It's a daily practice. It's about reclaiming yourself and saying it's okay to have walked through that. That doesn't change who I've become today. I'm proud of who I am today. But I keep going, and I do uncomfortable things sometimes when I need to. But 10 or 15 years ago, I was walking around with a leaky gut. My thyroid was out of control. I was fighting 5 autoimmune diseases that are no longer in my body today. And that is because I did that inner work. I started asking myself, what am I carrying that doesn't belong to me? And I put in those 4 steps that I had discussed with you on a day-to-day basis. And I still use those today. I write a lot of books. I have 30 plus books, and they're all different parts of my story and things that I could have used growing up in that background, things I wish somebody would have told me. And I try to put it in a fun, loving way so children can learn that it's okay no matter where they're at today. So I want to thank you so much for joining me today. I have a lot of time left, and I don't know that I'm going to fill that time. But I do want to let you know that it was very important for me to share this up front for the first time. People see me online as a happy-go-lucky person, and for a long time I wasn't that happy-go-lucky person. I suffered with addiction. I was depressed. I was emotionally broke, physically unfit, and spiritually broken. And it doesn't matter where you're starting. It just matters that you keep going, because you are the most important person in your life. Without you, Nothing else exists. You know, I was that people pleaser. I was that yes person. And every time I said yes to someone else, I was saying no to myself, no to things that I needed to do, no to things that were important to me. And the only way forward is through it. I wrote these notes. I didn't use them. I probably missed something that was important. But what you need to walk away from today is that you are not what happened to you. You really are what you choose to become next. You can't allow your past to keep you stuck and not become the person that you're meant to become, because you are so worth all your dreams, all your visions, and all the happiness that you can have in this world. So I am Andra Annette, and I want to thank you again for coming in and listening to all the speakers. If you look at the speakers, we've all been through different things, and we've all used many of the same things to get through it, but it all required work and effort. There's a lot of people out there that will tell you, take this pill and you'll be healed, or do this one thing, and all of that stuff was erased. But it doesn't work that way in actuality. It really doesn't. We are so individual that what works for me won't work for you. I don't do programs. I do people. I get to know what's important to that person. I did give a program, mindful eating, for you guys. I'm sure they'll put that up for you. But it's not just about mindful eating. It's about being mindful and intentional in every aspect of your life, because it's only through intentional actions that we are able to step up and change the things that we need to do. So I hope you've learned something from this story. I'm glad that I'm through it. And I want to thank you. So reflective journaling is really, really important. And the more that you spend that time writing down what's going on in your life, that day to day, it's a tool that you can use in your future as well, because you can look at some of the things that happen in the course of your day. Sometimes we argue with people that we really care about, and we don't always see our part in it until after the fact, right? But reflective journaling does allow you to look at the different parts of your day and say, hey, what was my part in this conversation? What if I could I have done differently to make that conversation be better, to make that interaction more effective, to make that person feel heard and understood? So the things that we say to others, we are more likely to be forgiving and kind, but we don't forgive ourselves, and we're not kind to ourselves. So monitoring our self-talk, the ladies were talking about your nervous system and your regulation. Your body hears what your mind is saying all the time. It's always listening. If you say, I can't do this, chances are you won't. If you say that something's impossible, you've already convinced yourself that it is. So your outcomes are going to be so much harder. So definitely monitor your self-talk. Definitely be kind in the words you use. It takes a lot of practice to do that. I was lucky enough to stumble upon a book many decades ago that really changed the way I talk to myself. And when I catch myself saying something negative, I say up until now, which I know sounds really silly, but Mary Morrissey used to say that in a lot of her programs that she did. And I found that really worked for me, and I love Mary Morrissey. So, but you're living a life, and it's only one life that you have. You don't have to ask for other people's approval to be who you are. There's no one that's going to agree with everything we do or even agree with what we choose to do with our lives, but it is our lives. And those outcomes are what we are going to pay the consequences for or have a happy celebration about. So when we take care of that inner self, we show up fully. If we're a hot mess on the inside, then we're not showing up for our family. We're not being that 100% employer, right? We're not being a really good friend or an attentive to anyone. If all those voices in our head are busy and scattered thinking about traumas for the past, and everybody is walking around with some kind of trauma or another. We all have generational stories, traumas that we face, things that we went through when we were children. And that should be upfront when we have conversations with people in our day-to-day life so that we are a little kinder, we are a little more compassionate, we are a little more empathetic, because people deserve that. Just like you want that, so do they. So I'm going to stop talking because I could rattle on and on and on for millions of minutes as long as it's not about myself. That's the difficult part. It's hard for me to share that story, but I know that it does help other people heal. So I'm Andra Annette. Thanks again for coming in and watching all the people today. Please follow up with these ladies and the hosts and these amazing people. If you're someone who's looking to share your story and speak on different topics, I highly encourage you to reach out to Anshu, our administrator, the global leader admin, and really start getting out there and talking, because the more times you do it, the easier it becomes. And there's people out there waiting to hear your story. It might just change their life. So thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Andra. Uh, Definitely, that's true. The more that you keep telling, the story, your story, it lightens the burden that you've carried with you for a very, very long time. So, thank you for that wonderful reminder. And I know we talked before we started going live, and you said that you mentioned how uncomfortable you are sharing your story, but yeah, it is what it is. Like when you're uncomfortable, that's when you learn something new about yourself. So thank you again. We're honored to hear your journey and for the reminder that healing the world often begins with healing the gut, the hormones, all these health habits. And while I still have you there, I just want to take this liberty of sharing because I've read that just a pretty short excerpt rather of the mindful eating ritual. So it's about slowing down and savoring the flavor. So there's just 4 steps. So our global viewers here, breathe before your first bite, and then you chew slowly, savor each flavor, and don't forget to express gratitude for the nourishment in front of you before putting it into your mouth. And then visualize your body absorbing all the healing energy. So whether you're enjoying, like a salad, a smoothie, or sandwich, anything at all, take a moment to connect with your food because whatever we put in, that could help us in our healing. So again, thank you so much, Annette, for inspiring us, and we are looking forward to hearing more from you. And we're just lucky to have you here today. Up next, we have a mentor who helps professionals turn self doubt into strength. She is an award winning global motivational speaker, an international best-selling author, and a personal development mentor, championing women professionals, especially over the ages of 40. This is to regain their self-esteem and redefine their success. Joining us from Chicago, Illinois, please welcome Gail Mariel. Gail, welcome to the virtual stage.
Thanks, Navi. I had self-confidence issues since I was a child. I was a first generation American, and a lot of times there was a lot of pressure to succeed in life. That pressure brought on a lot of self doubt. I wanted to be a writer. I had a childhood dream to also be a fashion model. I am right now in my early 50s, but at the time, in my teenage formative years, I was told that I couldn't be those things. At the time, there was nobody on TV that looked like me. I'm a 4'11" Asian woman that wanted to be a news anchor. I wanted to be a broadcaster. Didn't seem like that was an opportunity for me. I was told that I wouldn't make it. I wanted to be a writer. I was also told nobody was going to listen to me. Who would read what I have to say? I was taught to be able to see things from a be strong on the outside. So that self-doubt carried on into adulthood. I became successful in corporate. I am a good wife, good mom, and good professional. However, it didn't take long for me to keep trying to satisfy everyone. I was working 18 to 20 hours a day in my corporate job. I was trying to manage a family, and at the time, a young son. And at the time, I wasn't taking care of myself. My turning point was when I ended up in the emergency room with borderline stroke levels of high blood pressure. At that moment, when the doctors told me I needed to slow down, that was my turning point. My young son at the time was close to my hospital bed, and I needed to understand where I was and where I wanted to go. That was the moment I decided to go on a self-discovery journey. I could not function the way that I've been functioning all these years. And I have to finally understand why I was going through what I was going through and really address my issues. I went on a self-discovery journey, and through that journey, I felt more empowered and I felt the confidence to actually pursue my passions. I became an international best-selling author. I had co-authored 2 books on how I overcame my limiting beliefs and imposter syndrome. I'm also a motivational speaker. Even if I'm not a broadcaster, I'm with you today because I found my voice, and I'm able to tell everyone, especially women over 40 who are professionals and have that self-doubt about themselves, to really dig deep and understand themselves and be able to be empowered, redefine their success. Review my lifestyle and be able to recover from that is understanding the source of my issues. I always had self-doubt. I always felt that everybody else was better than me. Once I labeled that, then I was able to identify what I could do about it. I'd like to share with you the 5 types of imposter syndrome. You may have heard that term over the past 5, 10 years, but have you really understood what that was? The first type is the perfectionist. I had always tried to be perfect, that if it wasn't right the first time, then I'd consider myself a failure. I always had to see that everything was in the right place and everything was structured. And if things fell out of place, then it was my fault. The second type is the expert. This is where we try to chase titles or validate yourself through those titles. In the corporate space, I was trying to get promoted. And once I got promoted, instead of celebrating myself, I was on to the next goal of getting to the next level and the next level and the next level. And it became exhausting because I never really celebrated myself. I never really celebrated my wins. The gifted one, or the natural genius, is another type where we have things that we are very good at naturally. And if there are challenges that we face that are not easily solvable, we end up thinking that we're failures because of the fact that we didn't know things. The fourth type is the soloist. How many of us have been told, you got to try to do it on your own? You got to be independent. You got to figure it out on your own. And especially as children going through the school systems and with our society, if you're not doing things on your own, then you're a failure as well. I never asked for help because asking for help is a sign of weakness. That was what I was taught as a child. The last one is the superhero. How many of us want to be everything to everyone? I tried doing that, and there comes a point where it's going to fall apart. How many of us so many times try to juggle so many things, keep the balls up in the air, keep the plate spinning, and then in the meantime, you're the one suffering because you're running on that adrenaline and you're running on that vision of people pleasing also comes into play with imposter syndrome. I heard a lot of speakers talk about how they were a people pleaser. That's one of the things that I had to overcome as well. And that's the part of the superhero type of imposter syndrome that we face sometimes. So how many of you experience one or all of these? And I'm sure at some point, all of us experience all of them at the same time. According to the American Psychological Association, up to 72% of us experience imposter syndrome at some point in our lives, and 62% of us as professionals. And now that we are able to identify what type of imposter syndrome we are, then we can say, you know what, I'm not alone. I know that this is something that I can recover from. I can have the power to redefine who I am and not let anybody else dictate what my life should be. So what are the things that helped me through my journey? I aligned with my self-belief, with my values and passions and unique talents. The first part of my journey was self-assessment, how I saw myself. I had to redefine who I am. Yes, I was a mom. Yes, I was a wife. Yes, I was a professional. But those are all external. Who am I as a person? My goals and my dreams and who I was ended up being in my childhood. And that stopped when other people told me that I couldn't be what I wanted. I wanted to resurface that and make sure that I lived my life for who I wanted to be. And that's the true meaning of being your authentic self. So that journey that I took really helped me get to where I want to be. self-journaling. I've heard so many speakers today talk about self-journaling. That's a huge thing. One thing that I've always struggled with was finding my self-worth, because especially when we consider ourselves failures, sometimes we say, you know what, I'm not good at anything. What am I doing? But if you do self-journal, one thing that you accomplish that day and just keep doing it on a regular basis, when you come to those self-doubt points, you could look back on it and say, you know what? I've done all these things, so I'm not that bad. So the self-validation is going to be a much more powerful tool than what anybody else thinks. Your words and your documentation is your proof. So that's something that I totally recommend, and I punctuate with the other speakers and saying self-journaling is a great tool. As part of that, self-reflect to gain clarity about yourself. What are your triggers when you feel that you have that self-doubt? What are your behaviors? How do you feel when those triggers happen? And then be able to identify ways and strategies to actually make that self-doubt gap smaller so you can start being empowered much quicker. I ended up overcoming my fear and self-doubt. I became more empowered to be who I am. And that's why, again, I'm here with all of you, because I found my voice, and I want everyone to know that this is something that you can do. It's never too late. Also, take action, but with intention. With the resources that you have, whether it's coaching, mentoring, books, podcasts, all those are awesome. And those are great resources. But you have to use them with intention. Take action on it and be able to really absorb that within yourself. That way, you'll be able to take the strategies that work for you and practice it and make it part of your regular routine. Cultivate confidence daily. A lot of my clients used to tell me, self-affirmations is not for me because I hate talking about myself, and I hate talking to myself, and I hate kind of like, and all I heard was, I hate doing that. And I ended up having them really understand what the true meaning of self-affirmations are. It's not for anybody, it's for you. Self-affirmations are really your belief system, because in the past, a lot of people have given you your belief. You have taken external factors and external words to identify yourself. Now is the time to actually listen to yourself and believe in it instead of believing in what other people say about you. The biggest mistake that I made and what I see other people make is, number one, doing it alone. I mentioned that before. I always tried to say to myself, you know what, I can do this. I'm stronger than that. I don't need anybody, just those limiting beliefs. But then once I freed myself and asked for help, through mentorship, through communities, supportive communities, it is one of the most empowering things to know that somebody's in my court. And I also learned from other people for my journey and going through the same type of journey to say, hey, I can do what they're doing, and I can be who I am because I'm worth it. Ignoring the bigger issue. As I mentioned, as I went into adulthood, I didn't think it was an issue because it was just more of a coping mechanism. Once I saw the bigger issue about my self-confidence and the source of my doubt, that's when I was able to really be able to redefine it and get to where I want to be because of that. And I doubted myself going through this challenge. That was one of the mistakes I made. If I fail at some point, because this is challenging, right? These transformations to being what you have believed most of your life to believing a more empowering and more authentic life was very difficult. And so when I went through this challenge, I always retreated back and I went through my bad habits. And so now I was able to figure out strategies on how to sustain that confidence. And so if I do get into that mode of self-doubt again, I was able to bounce back quicker. I'm hoping that I helped through a lot of the challenges that people face, especially with women over 40 who are having imposter syndrome. I am a personal development coach that helps get through those challenges and helps you get the tools and the structure to actually get through them. I am having a lot of resources that can help you in your journey. I am offering a self-discovery guide, which is self-doubt to self-worth guide, which does have prompted questions as well as self-affirmations to get you started, especially in your journaling. I also am offering a free 30-minute session to help you get through your journey and get you started with what you want to do and see how I can support you. I'm also available through my website, gailmariel.com. I'm also on social media, and we have Ask Me Anything sessions where I go live and be able to answer any questions regarding your situation or any topics regarding confidence. I want to leave you with a most empowering statement. For those watching, if you are going through a dark period in your life that starts giving you that self-doubt and you feel that you can never get out of that self-doubt, just stay strong and know that you will come stronger out of that journey and you will be empowered to be who you want to be. And most importantly, don't let anyone else define you. Thank you all for having me on here. This was a great opportunity. I am able to express my words and punctuate the message that all the speakers before me had already given. Very honored to be here. Thank you.
And we are honored that to hear your story, Gail. I mean, I could relate to you on so many levels, not just because of our Filipino descent, but a lot of Filipinos are certified people pleasers, so to speak. So thank you for showing us, and I really do resonate with self journaling to find your self worth, because I think it's really important to gain the self validation, like coming from yourself rather than seeking validation from others. So we're really grateful that you shared your story, your perspective, your best practices, and definitely, someone out there needs to hear your voice. So thank you for bringing that to the table. And my inbox just fired up because a lot of my Filipino friends actually related to your story, and it all happened because you did take action with intention. So thank you very much, Gail.
Thank you, Navi.
Up next, we have a woman who guides her fellow women through life's most meaningful reinventions. A faith-led speaker, coach, and pastor with 40 plus years of ministry, she's helped women over 50 rediscover their purpose, rebuild their confidence, and to live with impact. I believe she serves the Rio Grande Valley from Alamo, Texas, and also ministers across Reynosa. Please welcome Catherine Monchevitz. Catherine, the stage is yours. All right, Catherine. I think you might be on mute, or yeah. It happens. We sort of have like some technical hiccups that happens here. Now let's try that again. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not hearing you yet here, Catherine. Maybe the microphone isn't connected, or just another audio hiccup. It happens on live stream. Right. While we're waiting for Catherine to bring her audio up, those who are watching us live, I hope the first four speakers definitely brought different perspectives, different experiences that they shared with us. You might have related to one or two or even all of them, but put together today has been really inspiring. Hearing those stories, how they overcome, and they're still fighting and struggling with their trauma every once in a while, but it does give us hope that you know there's always that bridge that we could cross no matter how difficult things may seem. And it just so it really does have to start with us. You just have to believe that you could go through all these struggle, all these emotional challenges, the proper mind setting. And it's not just that. It's not all just in the head. Even your health has a lot to do with it. How you take care of your health, your gut. It's just a lot of gold nuggets that we've picked up from our speakers in today's summit. Just so we could have Catherine back on board, I think, Catherine, you might have to just restart your computer so that everything would connect. Uh, we're still going to be here to hear your side of the story, since this is going to be circling around faith and spirituality more. We would definitely love to have you us with here on our virtual stage. So yes, if you guys would be going to the comments on Facebook, on YouTube, we have some giveaways coming from our speakers, like from Andra. There are some offers that has been given. You might want to check their websites out. You could see there scrolling on the bottom of our screen. And I think that's also been posted on our Facebook comments to grab this honorable gifts from Andra. Heal your relationship with food, mindful eating. While we wait for Catherine to join us back, um, even if it's a holiday on Monday for those who are living in the US and in Canada, we would like to invite you to another episode of Power Talk Mondays, which is Breaking Generational Cycles of Negativity, Building Champions, where we feature Charles Prinzin, a transformational mentor and advocate for at-risk youth. Again, that'll be happening on Monday, September 1st at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Global Speakers Talk YouTube channel. In just 15 minutes on that episode, you'll get practical tools to turn struggle into stepping stones. So please do subscribe and hit on the bell so you don't miss any notifications coming from us. You could share it with a parent, a teacher, or mentors who need to hear their message. And also, something that we're very excited about coming up in a couple of months, this December, we will be celebrating because we're also holding the third annual Global Live Conference running across 10 days between December 2 to 19th. We've invited rather more than 100 speakers from all around the world to dive into various tracks like AI powered innovation, emotional intelligence and leadership. We've also got mental wellness in the digital age, the creator economy, something I really love, the power of affirmations. We've got time management and productivity, financial freedom. We also have craft your book in 10 minutes, and something for leaders, leadership resilience, thriving under pressure, and more widely discussed would be about relationships, love, and family. So please do follow Global Speakers Talk on Facebook, Instagram. We're on YouTube, LinkedIn, and also on X, formerly Twitter. So you can check the schedules, the speaker drops, and also the live links once that is up. We really can't wait to learn and grow with you there. Again, this is happening in December, running across 10 days from December 2 to 19 with more than 100 speakers around the globe. And also, if you're ready to make your voice heard, you can always reach out to Global Speakers Talk. You can have a chat with Anshu. We're here to help you take the next step because, this stage has been founded by Anshu herself to get our voices across, to let our messages be heard, because there are a lot of stories that are meant to be talked about, that are meant to be told, that are meant to be heard by other people. You'll never know, just like what happened today. These stories coming all the way from the US here in the Philippines with my fellow certified voice artist. That's a whole lot of inspiration sent miles and miles away. You'll never know who's meant to hear your voice. Sorry, you can see our annual international live conference poster on screen. Again, that's happening in December. Don't miss it. You can check out our Facebook page for all the updates and to find out what dates our topics are landing. It's not going to be all the way like daily, but it'll be run for 10 whole days from December 2 to 19. All right. Hi, Catherine. Welcome back. I'm still not hearing. Oh no. Let's see. How could we help her out? Or we would really want to hear your part today, Catherine. Would you by any chance be able to join using a mobile device?
Yes.
Oh, wait, I could hear you now. I
Okay.
think I
Can you
just
hear
heard
me?
you.
Can you hear me now through my speaker?
Yes, Catherine. Thank God. All right, loud and clear now.
Give me 10 seconds.
Sure,
Can you
no
hear me?
worries. I can hear you
Oh,
now.
thank you,
Yes.
Jesus.
Yeah, we could go ahead and
Jesus.
proceed
Okay.
with your
There's
talk.
nothing like a little hiccup on technology to get
Of
your juices
course,
flowing
yeah,
in the
and it
morning.
was
Ah,
saved right for like the last, but definitely this is not the least. But saving this, and a lot of people are
all
actually
right.
waiting for
Well,
you because we're circling around faith with your topic, Catherine. But thank you for still and for putting up with all these hiccups. But the stage is yours, Catherine. Go ahead.
did it. We did it. Well, hello to everyone, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our stories, and thank you for waiting me to figure out my mic. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you a near-death experience in the hopes that it will inspire you and motivate you and encourage you today. So here's my story. Beep, 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 beep. That's the sound I remember most vividly. The monitors next to my bed. My life was slipping away from me. All I could hear the doctors say was, "She's not going to make it, is she?" And the other doctor said, "It doesn't look like it at the moment. We've done everything that we medically know how, and yet nothing is working." I've sent the lab panels to the CDC to see if they can help us. Now, let me pause here for a second and ask you a quick question. Have you ever overheard something about your life, about your future that made you feel hopeless? Maybe it wasn't a doctor's report, but maybe it was a boss or a spouse or a significant other that put those thoughts in your head. You see, I was one of the first 3 people in the United States to have COVID. No, back then, nobody knew what it was. They didn't know how to treat it. And by this point, I had been sick for 5 long months. And instead of improving, I was getting worse. That day, the doctor stood by my bedside, ready to intubate me. And here's the hard part. I had already said goodbye. I had said goodbye to my children, to my parents, to my husband, before losing my voice completely. I had already accepted the fact that my time on earth was finished. But oddly enough, I was at peace with it. But lying there, hearing the monitor sound, I realized something profound, that life is fragile and every breath is a gift. Even in those last moments, the chance to love, the chance to influence, and to make impact, it still mattered. I came to teach you and tell you today that your life matters. So if you don't feel seen, or you don't feel heard or appreciated, and maybe you feel like nobody would notice if you left the earth, well, let me tell you, your life matters. God cares, and He sees you, and He hears you, and He wants to help you see your value through His eyes. That is when I felt God's presence brush over me, reminding me that my life and your life matters. Have you ever come to a place where you've just stopped fighting? Maybe because the fight was long. Your body's present, but your mind, it's checked out. You see, in those final moments, I had one last thought. I wish I could see my daughter get married. Think about this for a second. If you were at the edge of your life and you had maybe 2 minutes to live, what unfinished moment or dream would rise up in you? What is so important to you that even in your last breath, you would want to hold on to it? But see, that wasn't the end of my story. And then, in an instant, everything changed. The room was quiet, except for the steady beeping of the monitor. The doctors were poised, ready to act, their hands hovering over the equipment. I could feel the weight of every second pressing down on me. And in that stillness, I sensed a presence so real, so near, that it was as if a gentle breeze caressed a rush of breath filled my body. It wasn't from a machine. It wasn't from a tube. It was the breath of God Himself entering my lungs. And then all of a sudden, I heard the doctor yell, "Wait, she's breathing on her own." That night, the Holy Spirit didn't just restore air into my lungs. He restored purpose into my life. So I want to encourage you this morning, don't give up. You see, as I went through the therapy to strengthen my body, the doctors realized that I had a bigger battle on my hands, because my battle wasn't just physical. My physical body was gaining its strength, was getting my voice back, but my mind had stopped engaging. That's when I began to understand what was happening medically. My body was weak, but my mind had flipped into shutdown mode. After months of sickness, the neurons that normally keep us hopeful and engaged had pretty much gone offline. From a neurological perspective, my brain was fired. It had already decided that death was the outcome, and stop sending recovery signals. Doctors call this psychogenic death, when the mind believes survival is impossible and the body follows. On top of that, COVID had created inflammation in my brain, disrupting the very chemicals, which is dopamine and serotonin, that helps us fight and stay motivated. But even when my brain had quit, my body had surrendered. Here's the thing. My spirit, it was very much alive. And it was listening, and it was waiting, and it was hoping. And that's when I realized, don't give up, Catherine. Don't give up. You were placed here for a reason. You were given a second chance for a reason. Think about the areas in your life where you feel stuck and ready to quit. What if God is asking you to pivot instead of giving up? God has a plan that cannot be stopped by illness, by disappointment, or by fear. My friend, you are a survivor, not by accident, but because He has something greater for you. Have you ever felt that? Where your body is going through the motions, but your mind has shut down? Well, let me tell you today, my friend, your voice matters. The Bible says that the enemy comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy. And in that hospital room, that's exactly what was happening. My mind aligned with death. And yet God wasn't finished with me yet. When the breath of God entered me, it was heaven's override. What medicine could not restart, what my neurons would not reignite, the Spirit of God did. When I finally recovered enough to speak again, I realized that losing my voice for nearly a year had taught me a profound lesson. You know what that lesson was? Your voice matters. If you don't believe me, then lose your voice for a year and come tell me how you feel. But I came to teach you today and to tell you today that if you've ever felt silenced by fear, by circumstances, or by life itself, if your story, my friend, your story is still needed. We still need your voice in your testimony. That's why we're here today, because we need to hear your testimony. We need to hear the things that God did for you. And in those final moments, when I thought about my daughter getting married, and when I thought about what unfinished business I had, I thought, I don't want to give up now. I have a voice, and I want to tell my testimony. And I want to tell people that their voice matters. Their voice matters. And in that moment, when medicine couldn't help me, I finally recovered enough to speak again and realized that losing my voice made me appreciate my voice. That losing my breath made me appreciate my very breath. If you've ever felt silenced by fear, by circumstances, or by life itself, my friend, your story is still needed. Your words carry the power to encourage, to inspire, and to heal. God restored my voice, not so I could return to my old life, but so I could speak life and hope and faith into others. Imagine what your words could do if you chose to speak them today, or if you chose to speak them differently, from a point of faith instead of from a point of discouragement. Later, we learned that what I had was H1N1, the first strand of COVID. And through the doctor's connections to the CDC, they found the treatment I needed. And that was my pivot. Even though I lost my voice for a year, I regained it. God restored it. And so I could not return to my old career, but so I could use it differently to speak life, faith, and hope. Because when you stood face to face with death, let me tell you, my friend, your priorities will change. Your story will change. Your purpose will change. Your desires will change. Everything will change. And there's one thing that you will realize is that every breath is a gift, and every gift has a purpose. What if the very thing that almost took you out is the very thing God wants to use to lift you up? What if your hardest battle could become your greatest story? Friend, I shouldn't even be here today. I went from the edge of death when the doctor said she's not going to make it, to sitting here with breath in my lungs and purpose in my heart. But here's what I've learned. Surviving isn't the same as living, and living isn't the same as truly walking in your God-given purpose. Some of you have survived loss. Some of you have survived heartbreak. Some of you have survived a diagnosis. You've survived seasons that should have taken you out. But if you're still here, that means, my friend, God is not finished with you yet. So the question is today, will you just survive or will you truly live? Because faith can give you the courage. Let me say that again. Faith can give you the courage. Many times people don't make a change because they don't have the courage, but your courage comes from your faith. Mindset can give you the clarity. If you don't have clarity, you won't know where you're going. Resilience can give you the strength that you need to overcome the thing that you fear the most. But only God, my friend, can give you the breath of life to step into your purpose. But let me encourage you with this scripture. In Ezekiel 37, God spoke to the valley of dry bones and he said, I will put breath in you and you will come back to life. Isn't that encouraging? So let me ask you today, what dream have you buried that God is asking you to breathe life into again? What lie have you aligned yourself with and believed that's been keeping you stuck in survival mode? What step of faith could you take today to move from just surviving to truly living? So today, I leave you with these 3 lessons. Your life matters. I don't care what anybody told you, my friend. I don't care if it was family members. I don't care if somebody told you that you would never amount to anything. I heard that most of my life. But thank God I did not align with those lies. I aligned with God's truth. It's what you believe that sets you on your journey. Your life matters, my friend. You are here for a reason. Your life matters. Number 2, your voice matters. My friend, use it wisely. Use it to lift people up. Use it to encourage people. Practice. Go to the grocery store. Say hi to people. Say, have a blessed day. Say, can I help you with that? Your voice matters. You never know whose life you can impact by just using your voice. Tell you a quick story. I was at the grocery store and this young man looked terribly sad. And I just went up to him and I said, I know you don't know me and you might think I'm a little crazy, but I just want you to know that God sees you and God hears you. And I just feel like you're having a little bit of a hard time today. And I just want you to say, your life matters, honey. Your life matters and your voice matters. And I don't know what you're going through, but if you'll let me, I'm just going to give you a hug and tell you, you are important. You really are. And he just broke down crying and he said, You have no idea how much those words mean to me. He said, I had planned my suicide today. I was going to jump under the bridge. He said, I just came and got some chocolate for courage. And we both laughed about that. And then I went outside and sat on the curb and for 1 hour spoke Jesus into his life and encouraged him. You don't know when your divine appointment is. It could be anywhere. My friend, use your voice because it matters. Don't give up. Don't you ever give up. You're still here for a reason. You have breath for a purpose. Don't waste it just surviving. Choose to live fully and let God use your story to bring life to others. I really hope my story has inspired you. The reason I came onto this summit is because I know that my life matters. I am convinced that my life and my story can motivate you and ignite a fire of determination in your heart. It's because I didn't give up. Even in the hardest times that I'm able to have impact and influence today is because I didn't give up. See, that's the enemy's strategy, is to get you to give up. With your thought patterns, with your behavior patterns, with the belief system you have. But let me tell you something. It's all one giant big lie. You are an amazing person. You just need to discover them yet. But you are valuable. And you have purpose. And your life matters. And your voice matters. Don't you give up. I don't care where you are in life. I don't care what you're going through. Everybody has a story. It's not that I don't care because I don't have a heart. It's because I know the truth behind it. It does matter. Because even in the hardest times, you can overcome and you can have impact and influence with your voice today. And if I can do it, so can you. Your story, your breath, and your purpose matter. And God is not finished with you yet. I don't know who needed to hear that today, but I hope that it has blessed you. And I hope that it's encouraged you. And I hope that it has motivated you. That's what I do with my clients. I help them pivot from their mindsets to their faith base. It's really important to know and understand the value you have. Once you understand your value and your sense of identity, that's where everything shifts. Identity is everything. It's how you see yourself. It's what you think of yourself. It's what you know to be true. And I really want to encourage you to reach out to a coach, to a community. I've heard that said several times from the people this morning that were speaking in the summit. And I would just like to second that. Community is everything. That's where all the motivation comes from. That's where the inspiration comes from. That's where the encouragement comes from. That's where the discipline comes from. That's where the accountability comes from. That is where support system is. And you're like, I don't know. I can't talk in front of people. Well, I couldn't either. The first time that I did this, my palms were sweaty. My stomach hurt. I thought, this is not a good idea. I can't do this. But you know what? Not everybody's called to a platform. And that's okay. But your platform is your world. It's your circle of influence. I don't hang around the people you do. That's you. That means that's your job to influence them, not only for the kingdom of God, but to motivate them and tell them you are here for a reason. Your life matters. Your voice matters. Don't you give up. And take the time to really invest in people, and you will find that it will come back to you. It will come back to you because it will encourage you to hear their stories of how they didn't give up because you took 5 minutes of your day to help them and motivate them. I did not come from a Christian background. I was a gangster. I had it all figured out. I didn't come from a good mentality. I had a dad that was schizophrenic, bipolar, never thought it was a good idea to send me to school. And you know what? None of that matters. Because I chose to rewrite my story. You can choose today to rewrite your story. You may feel stuck. You may not be where you want to be, but that is the beauty of having breath in your lungs. that means you're alive. And that means you have the opportunity one more day, one more time to choose life, to choose your destiny, to choose your purpose, to choose the legacy that you want to leave for your family, for your children, for your community, for the kingdom of God. It is your choice. But let me tell you, God doesn't raise no quitters. And God did not create any people with a brain that does not have the ability to improve itself. In neuroscience, it's called neuroplasticity. I've studied neuroscience for 10 years, and I worked in the medical field for many years. And the one thing that we learned is that the patients that got better from cancer, from operations, from anything that they had, was patients who understood the value of life and that they came really close. And now they didn't give up. And then they went full throttle ahead in their recuperation, but also in their mindset, believing they were going to get better, believing they were going to walk again, believing that they were going to see their family again, believing that they had purpose. Because without a purpose, you're just like a ship at sea without a sail. You're going to go here and you're going to go there and you're going to get involved in this and you're going to get involved with that. And you're never really going to settle on anything because your sense of purpose is gone. But let me tell you today, it's something that is so easy to get. So easy to get. You can do 4 or 5 easy steps to just find your separate purpose. Find that thing that lights you up. Find that thing that inspires you. If you like cars, become the best darn mechanic that America ever saw. Take people like Elon Musk. I don't care what you think about his life or what he does or what he doesn't or what he says, whatever. But that man lives with a mentality that goes above and beyond what we can currently see. That's what we have to do in the kingdom. We have to look above and beyond where our current situation is and be able to see where God is taking us, where we want to go. And with God, all things are possible. Let me tell you, all things are possible. I never saw myself as a speaker. I never saw myself as a coach. I never saw myself doing what I am doing today. That God made me with the mentality to be able to pivot. And a lot of people are scared of pivots. And I just want to encourage you, don't be afraid. Different isn't wrong. It's just different. There's nothing you can't learn. Nothing. All you have to do is have a community of support, coaches that'll train you. Even YouTube can train you to do things. There's no reason to be stuck. There's no reason at all, because there are tools, there are people with testimony and stories, just like your own, that have been there and done that and can help you through that. And if my story has inspired you at all to never give up, and if I can put any bit of value into your life today, I pray that my story has done that. The doctor later told me that I was about 2 or 3 minutes from death. The monitor was going so slow, they weren't even looking at it anymore. If you had 2 minutes to live, what would you change?
Catherine, I'm out of words. I just feel so blessed to have you here with us and hearing your story. It's such a beautiful reminder that it's never too late to be brand new. And it deeply resonated with me. You know, your life matters, your voice matters, and you know the fact that we're talking about purpose. I came from the Certified Voice Artist program here in the Philippines, where we advocate voice acting as an art. And we want the next generation of voice actors to look at it as an art and not just a talent. And it's because we believe that the voice, the beauty of our voices, it's not just for how it sounds, but for the message that it brings. And we have this mantra that, you know, because, you know, our voice is a gift from God, how we use it is our gift back to God. And everything you've said earlier on just resonated in my whole being. And I'm pretty sure a lot of my fellow certified voice artists feel the same. So thank you. That was very, very powerful.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for your feedback, Navi. I'm so blessed to have been here. Thank you.
Definitely. And I think every one of you here, it's such a powerful arc, from surviving the fire to shaping a future that we all actually want. So I hope everyone could be back here on stage with me, Brooke, Jody, Andra, Catherine, Gail. Well, I think we could spend a couple of more minutes just for a brief roundtable chat, if you would humor me for a bit.
Sure. Sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, Brooke, I'll start with you. If you could text your younger self, say one sentence after she had a bad day, what would that be?
Wow, I love that. That everything is going to be okay. Everything's going to be okay. Even if you have a bad day, it's okay. There's always tomorrow, and you're going to get through this, and tomorrow's going to come. And you know what? You're not even going to remember this bad day because there's going to be something great that happens.
Wow, that's really reassuring. I hope I had someone tell me that before. No, I got another one for you. This is more about how we regulate. And when shame or embarrassment strikes, what would you suggest we do in the first 90 seconds to help us, like settle the nervous system?
Yeah, that's a big one, honestly. Shame is something that I survived so much of being in the environment that I was in. I had to heal so much of my shame. So, when shame comes up, like you feel it in your body, you feel it like that it's a heavy emotion. It's also something that it's really difficult to move through. But I would say it's like, you know what, just sit with the shame. Okay, why am I feeling this shame? Right? Why am I feeling this embarrassment? Is it true? Is it real? And just allowing myself to feel the emotion of shame and where do I feel that in my body, and then allowing myself to either express that. So maybe I need to cry. Maybe I need to, speak to somebody. Maybe I need just to talk about how the way I felt so I can just kind of get it out, because whatever the body suppresses, it's going to come up later. So you might as well just let it out, let it be free, and just talk about what you just experienced. And that's kind of the best way to kind of move through that and release that, because you don't need to hold on to it.
Wow, very, very, very helpful. I'm sure a lot of our viewers could try that out, because there's a lot of us, we get taken aback when we suddenly feel that shame. And yeah, I guess we just really have to face it and embrace it before we let it go. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Now on to you, Jody. One mindset shift from your military career that us regular civilians can adopt tomorrow.
I think the biggest one for me is learning that my now does not necessarily dictate what's possible later. I had to learn how to release all the accolades, all the things that I had accomplished in the military and in life. Because when I transitioned into civilian life, and a lot of veterans go through this, even people that come out of the corporate world, because I talked to a lot of them, it's, this was mentioned before, it's that identity of now, who am I? So that's the biggest thing, is just understanding that our now doesn't dictate what's possible later.
Well, that's huge. Thank you. I mean, that's more for me, actually. Another one. I know I'm not sure if you actually recognize, but you have built quite a legacy. From that military career up to this, you're inspiring a lot of people, and that definitely sounds big. But what's like a small daily action that could help build a legacy in the long run?
Just realizing, so this is something that I still go through. I was diagnosed a few years ago with chronic depression, complex PTSD, and anxiety disorder. Okay. Those things don't define me if I don't allow them to, but I do know that they exist. So one of the biggest things that I've now done in my life is every day I wake up, and Catherine mentioned this, being grateful that I'm here, because there's been times where I didn't want to be here. I can't tell you how many mornings I woke up wishing, like saying, God, why am I still here? Or going to bed at night saying, please don't wake me up in the morning. There's been a lot of those times. Okay. So that's one thing that I've had to implement into my life is every single morning, understanding that I do have a purpose here. And that's one thing that I talk to other people about, because a lot of times when we don't see the purpose or we feel like we lack purpose, that's where we want to quit and we want to check out. Right. So it's understanding that every morning, if we wake up and we have breath, and if I'm able to move and I have all my limbs, even though I do deal with chronic pain, that's okay. If I can move, I'm going to move, and I'm going to be grateful for what I have that day, which sometimes it's just having the breath, but that's okay because that's enough. That means that my purpose still belongs in this world, and that I'm going to be in front of those that I'm meant to be in front of. I ask God to lead me every single day to those I'm meant to connect with. It's not going to be everyone, but those I'm meant to connect with. So that's the biggest thing that I've had to incorporate into my life, is just waking up grateful every single day. Thank you for
In-
having me here still.
Incredible. We are grateful for your life and grateful for the next days. I'm pretty sure a lot of us will be coming back to this summit stream just so we could hear that message again. Thank you again. Now on to more of medical health now, Andra. I want to know, like, what's usually like a misunderstood sign or symptom of a leaky gut imbalance or a thyroid imbalance that a lot of people would just dismiss as stress?
Well, stress does control both of those, both of those. But a lot of times people will just have like gas or they're constipated and it's a continual thing. But thyroid is more of our emotional lability. So a lot of times people are walking around with a thyroid disorder. There's 40 million people in America today with a thyroid disorder, and more than half of them are undiagnosed, which is astonishing to me because they're not doing the right tests. But you'll
Yeah.
have lability, you'll be tired on waking, you will have pain with the thyroid because it does impact our bones. But and a lot of that is connected to the digestive. So a lot of the things you see with thyroid, you're going to see with digestive because those two work very closely together. There is the gut thyroid axis. That's the axis I work. And the digestive health is connected to everything that's going on in your body, everything. Autoimmune diseases, inflammation, pain, having difficulty losing weight, emotional dysregulation, mental health disorders. So you could really be feeling anything on your body, in your body, your skin, your emotions, anywhere. And it's a lot of times people are being dismissed. They're just think, hey, I'm depressed, or this
Yeah.
is normal.
Because it's all interconnected, right?
Yeah, I'm going through menopause. It's normal for me to be bloating or things like that. And your hormones only change by minute amounts over the
Yeah.
decades. So that wouldn't cause all those reactions in your body. It's great to have something we could fall back on and blame, but it's not really so. So
Yeah. So
a
it's
lot of
really important to get checked and get the correct tests, right?
Yeah, to get you and to eat clean, to take care of yourself.
Eat
What
clean. Yeah.
we're consuming on a day-to-day basis is what's making us sick. The things that are in our foods today are not as healthy as the things when we were eating from the lands and stuff like that. So you have to take care of yourself. And if something's off, you should absolutely go and get checked.
Yeah, that's really good advice there. You did mention about like having trouble with weight loss earlier on. I'm a bit on the heavy side. I want to know, what myth about weight loss do you wish we dropped for good?
Calories in, calories out. When I stopped looking at calories and started looking at my BMI and what I should be eating, everything changed for me, right? Because calories is different for everybody, and calories change when you cook food, right? And
Yeah.
what they're saying is in food is not really actual. It's a guesstimate. It's not a certainty that that's in there, right? So it's processed. A lot of the things that are individually in those packages are all processed, and they have different things in them that all have a weight on that scale. But I think that people stop need to stop focusing so much on the scale and start focusing on nourishing their body, and weight loss is inevitable. It's very hard not to eat the things you're supposed to be eating and not feel
Right.
good, right?
Right.
I didn't focus on calories at all, and I did lose 160 pounds in a very
wow.
minimal amount of time. All my pain disappeared. My autoimmune diseases have been, in remission for 15 years. And it was just eating well and monitoring myself, that body.
Well, that's great that I got to talk to you now, because a lot of us here were crazy about calculating just the calories and all that. So it's great to know calories in, calories out is a myth, people. Thank you again, Jody. Now, I'm sorry, Andra. Now on to one of my fellow imposters, Gail. um, I got a question from one of my friends here. Like, how do you ask for help without feeling weak?
That's always a
Good question.
Yeah, very good question. When I tell my clients how to present yourself, present it in a way that you're seeking help to improve yourself. Always looking to have that explanation as to the why. Never forget the why. And I think when people understand what the why is and they see your passion and the intention behind it, then it would also actually be more, they're actually more willing to help you out. But from a personal perspective, it's more of a self-belief. We have to remove that self-belief of I'm asking for help because I have to. It's more of how do you convince yourself it's because I want to. It's because of improvement. It's because I can't sustain doing this on my own. It's more of the belief system that helps you be able to get that question out and ask for help. So I'm hoping that helps. It's just more of the mindset and the language that comes with it, and being able to articulate that in a way that it's sustainable and not forced. So you have to
Right.
believe first.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, you have to attach the purpose to that seeking help thing, and you have to believe that purpose. Great advice. Now,
Exactly.
for someone who wants, like, you've been handling people in their 40s. Now, if someone wants a career pivot at 40 or beyond, what's the first step that wouldn't be so crazy or scary?
Self-assess. Like I'm always going to go back to the why. Why do you want to pivot? Is it more for passion, or is it more for financial reasons, or is it more for external factors? And so I think the success that comes with the pivot will be based on what your why is. So really go back
Really
to the
is
why.
still the why. Yeah, the big
Go back.
question is always the why.
Yeah, it's always a why, because if you're doing it for other people, it's not going to be sustainable, and you're not going to really believe in it, and it may end up just getting you set up for failure. But if it's on your side, where you're really passionate about it, this is really what you want to do, nothing's going to stop you.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine, again, thank you. And I think God really put you in here with us, despite the hiccup earlier on. I've got a question here. Like, how do you answer that little voice that says it's too late?
It's never too late. I think our concept of late comes from what other people's opinions of us have shaped our brains to believe. And my whole thing is, don't ever allow other people's expectations of you to define you. So if you don't believe the lie that other people place on you, and you know what you want and you know where you're going, it really is a matter of identity, of who you believe you are. For example, later in life, I was 50 when I chose to do a huge career pivot. And when I went to the registrars, the lady there said to me, you know, Catherine, she said, you shouldn't even be here. You're too old for this program. The kids in this program are 18 years old. You don't belong here. You don't have the ability to pass these classes and do these things. You're too old. In that moment, I had a decision to make. I could believe her, or I could do what I really wanted to do. So I looked at her and I said, thank you for sharing your opinion, but please don't place your limitations on me. And I ended
Wow.
up graduating in the top 2% in the nation. Thank you very much, because I didn't allow her expectations of me. She later came and apologized, and I said, it's okay, I don't need your apologies, but I would love a mind shift for you, because that means that you will live your life with limiting beliefs. So to answer your question, whether you're pivoting at 30, 40, 50, or 60, it all has to do with going back to your identity. You're shaped by what the comments of other people and the influences you've had in your life. But it's up to you to determine which one of those things you're going to believe. So a pivot isn't that big of a deal if you have a sense of identity, or if we can work on your identity to really help you reflect of who am I and what do I really want, and then work from there.
Very powerful. Definitely the belief system, the mindset really has a lot to do with it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Catherine. And
You're welcome.
on our theme, after the fire, trauma to triumph. Before I let you, wonderful ladies, go, Catherine, if you may, give us a short prayer for all those who are still healing. I'm pretty sure a lot of us in the audience are also going through a lot of things, and your presence here, your prayers, your blessings would definitely mean a lot.
Absolutely. I would love to. Dear Heavenly Father, first of all, thank you so much. Thank you so much for allowing us to be in this space to reach the people. Thank you so much, because you are a good God. You are a God that enables us, empowers us, anoints us, and equips us and encourages us to go to the next level. Father, your Bible says that you have not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of might and of sound mind. I ask that for every listener who is here today, that they would be able to embrace that. Instead of embracing the fear, that they would embrace the spirit of power and of love and of a sound mind, to know that they are loved by you, accepted by you, that their voice carries, that their life carries, and that they would find a new, renewed sense of purpose for their life today, not tomorrow, not the next day, but that you would light a fire within them, Lord, so that they would come out of here different than what they were even yesterday. Thank you that you give us that ability. Thank you for the way you created us. Thank you for what you're doing in our lives and what you will continue to do. Thank you, Lord, because we have breath, and every day we have breath counts. Father, give us clarity, give us courage to be able to pivot into the next thing that you are calling us to do. Thank you, Lord, for this group of people who has absolutely placed a platform for our stories to be shared and for lives to be transformed. I thank you for all the people who took the time to listen in today, because they made that decision. Father, I ask you that you honor their decision to spend time listening, and that you do something incredible and miraculous in their life today. Give them the answer they've been looking and seeking for. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen. Okay. Wow. Thank you. Thank you once again, ladies. Brooke, Jody, Andra, Gail, Catherine. We've definitely learned a lot, and we were inspired by your sharing and your stories. Definitely golden nuggets, I would say once and once again. Your candor and courage, this is already a masterclass in renewal. So thank you.
Thank you, Navi. Thank you all.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for letting us be here and
And
part
thank
of
you
it.
for everyone who's tuned in.
Yes.